Sophia Koetsier went to Uganda to save people's lives, but instead, she probably lost hers. The local authorities quickly settled on a convenient story, an animal attack. But the evidence at the scene pointed to a kind of predator that walks on two legs. So what really happened to the girl who just wanted to save lives? In 2015, she was only 21 years old, a brilliant student from Amsterdam with a huge heart who loved sports. Her dream was not just to travel, but to become a doctor and save lives in the most remote corners of the planet. This calling brought her to Uganda for a challenging medical internship. For Sophia, this wasn't just a trip, it was a mission. But behind the image of this bright and vibrant young woman lay a vulnerability that only her closest confidants knew. At the age of 16, doctors diagnosed Sophia with bipolar disorder. It was her own personal, invisible battle. And this detail, this internal storm, would become a crucial element in this mysterious story. After completing her internship, Sophia realized that she wasn't ready to say goodbye to Uganda yet. She had fallen in love with the country and decided to extend her stay to go on a safari, a final adventure before returning home. On October 23rd, she, along with two other students from Holland and a local guide, set off on a journey into the heart of wild Africa. They didn't yet know that this journey would be Sophia's last. Their final destination was Murchison Falls National Park, the largest in Uganda, famous for its waterfalls and wildlife, including lions, elephants, and rivers teeming with crocodiles and hippos. On October 28th, the group arrived at the park. It seemed like the perfect end to an unforgettable journey. But within a few hours, everything would change forever. They settled in at the Student Education Center, a simple camp with a few huts for lodging and shared restrooms located some distance away. In the evening, while her companions were unpacking, Sophia walked off towards these restrooms. All she had with her was a small, empty water bottle. It was around 6:30, and dusk was beginning to fall. A staff member at the center saw her near the restrooms. According to him, the young woman seemed pensive and was looking towards the Victoria Nile River, which was about 660 yards away. This was the last time Sophia Koetsier was ever seen. A few minutes later, her companions noticed that Sophia hadn't returned. They went to check the restrooms, but no one was there. A quick search of the camp also yielded nothing. Sophia had vanished, leaving no trace. The group acted quickly. Within 15 minutes, they reported her disappearance to the local rangers. The search began immediately, but the encroaching darkness complicated everything. The rangers scoured the area, while Sophia's companions resorted to a desperate tactic. They played her favorite song on repeat in their car, hoping she would hear it and come back, but there was no response. At 9 o'clock in the evening, with no news of Sophia, one of her companions called her mother, Marie Slikerman. Upon hearing the news, the woman was devastated and immediately began to arrange her trip to Uganda. The next morning, the search resumed with greater intensity, joined by local police and even the military. Soon, the first clue emerged. But instead of bringing clarity, it only made the story more confusing. That same small water bottle was found just 16 feet from the bank of the Nile. This discovery raised more questions than answers. Had Sophia made it to the river? It was a dangerous place, especially at night, teeming with crocodiles and hippos. Initially, the Ugandan authorities leaned towards the theory that Sophia had been attacked by a wild animal, but this explanation did not last long. On October 30th, almost 40 hours after her disappearance, more of her belongings were found, about 164 feet from the bottle. Among them, a pair of hiking pants, one strangely clean boot, sunglasses, and a torn banknote. But most disturbing of all was that pieces of fabric from her pants were woven into a tree branch at a height of about 16 feet. The way the items were scattered looked extremely strange. There was not a single drop of blood at the scene and no signs of a struggle. The pants were inexplicably in the tree, while the other items were scattered over a surprisingly large area. And yet, there was no trace of Sophia herself. And then, another strange fact emerged. The local rangers claimed they hadn't seen these items when they first searched the area, even though they were very close to the previously discovered bottle. The discovery after 40 hours raised suspicions that the items might have been planted later to stage the scene. The official story was already falling apart. But when a survival expert joined the case, he would discover a detail that pointed not to an accident but to a performance. Investigator Thomas Cohn, after analyzing the evidence, concluded that the damage to the pants was inflicted intentionally and was not the result of an animal's teeth or claws. As Cohn pointed out, no animal would leave clothing in a tree or scatter items in such an orderly fashion. In his opinion, the scene looked staged. The theory of an animal attack was convenient for the Ugandan authorities, who quickly classified Sophia's disappearance as an accident. But the evidence and the lack of it told a different story. No one heard any screams. No animal tracks were found either. Moreover, the terrain between the camp and the river was difficult to traverse, especially at night. For an inexperienced foreigner to cross it alone in the dark would have been nearly impossible. When the animal theory was dismissed, the investigation's focus shifted to Sophia's mental health. Her companions revealed that a few days before her disappearance on October 26th, the young woman's behavior had become erratic. Due to her bipolar disorder, Sophia was experiencing a severe episode. She was hardly sleeping, talking nonstop, and behaving recklessly. Her behavior caused tension within the group. Her companions even considered contacting Sophia's mother, but the young woman asked them not to. The guide, hoping to defuse the situation, changed the itinerary to calmer locations. But upon arriving at Murchison Falls, Sophia's condition became unstable again, and this time with greater intensity. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. Sophia's mental state wasn't just another layer of complexity. It was perhaps the key that opened the door to tragedy. Her erratic behavior, her disorientation could have made her vulnerable. And vulnerability in the wild attracts not just the four-legged kind. But while this might explain why Sophia left the camp, it did nothing to explain the strange placement of her belongings and her complete disappearance. Sophia's family vehemently denied that she had any sad thoughts related to her condition. According to them, nothing like that had ever happened, and she loved life. So what, then, did happen? While the authorities were considering convenient theories, the one person who would not let this case be filed away was already flying to Uganda, Sophia's mother. And it was her persistence that would lead to the most shocking discoveries. On October 30th, Maria Slikerman arrived in Uganda, accompanied by representatives from the Dutch embassy. With her arrival, the search expanded, involving police, helicopters, and even a team of drone operators from Holland. But despite the massive efforts, no trace of Sophia was ever found. While the Ugandan media quickly dropped the subject, reverting to the animal attack theory, the Dutch media covered the case much more intensely. Refusing to give up, Marije did not back down. She would return to Uganda more than 20 times, conducting her own investigation and finding more and more inconsistencies in the official reports. And her persistence paid off. In 2019, she found a crucial lead. A retired officer from the Uganda Wildlife Authority named Stephen Nyadru gave a statement. He claimed to have seen Sophia talking with another officer on the night of her disappearance. However, that second officer denied any contact with her and was never questioned by the authorities. But the main breakthrough came from the analysis of Sophia's belongings, which had been sent to Holland. DNA testing confirmed the presence of genetic material from an unknown male. This finding directly pointed to the involvement of a third party. Suddenly, the central question of the investigation changed. It was no longer what happened to Sophia, but who did this to her. And this is where Maria discovered a fact the authorities seem to have overlooked. Just 1.2 miles from the camp on the night of Sophia's disappearance, about 400 Uganda Wildlife Authority recruits were undergoing training. A large group of men with specialized knowledge of the terrain whose alibis were never properly checked. Over the years, several theories have emerged. The animal attack theory was almost immediately disproven by the evidence. The possibility of an accident was also considered, that Sophia might have gotten lost or drowned. However, the absence of a body and any tracks made this unlikely. The theory of a voluntary disappearance was flatly denied by her family, who stated that Sophia loved life and was making plans for the future. Furthermore, Sophia had a very close relationship with her family and many plans related to her studies, so it makes no sense that she would just abandon everything. This brings us to the saddest, but also the most likely theory, that foul play was involved in Sophia's disappearance. All the key pieces of evidence support it: the stage scene with her belongings, the absence of any signs of a struggle, and most importantly, the DNA of an unknown male. Moreover, no footprints were found at the scene at all, neither from a stranger nor even from Sophia herself. This suggests that she was likely taken by surprise and carried away from the scene. The complete lack of tracks indicates that a professional was at work, someone who knows the jungle well and knows how to leave no trace. And here, it is worth remembering those 400 Uganda Wildlife Authority recruits who were training just 1.2 miles from the camp. These individuals undoubtedly had the necessary training to cover their tracks. So this theory seems the most plausible. It is supported by the evidence, a possible cover-up by the authorities, and the presence of specially trained individuals nearby. But without direct proof, it remains just a theory. What we know for sure is that Sophia's family has never stopped fighting for answers. Her mother, Maria Slikerman, became a tireless investigator in her own daughter's case. She raised funds, hired private detectives, and constantly pressured the authorities to reopen the case. But a new investigation launched in 2019 under family pressure quickly stalled, and a crucial request from Sophia's mother remains ignored: a simple DNA test, comparing the sample from the scene with the UWA officer last seen with her daughter. This test has never been performed. Instead, the last known legal action in June of 2025 was a trial against the tour guide for an expired license, while the most crucial question in Sophia's disappearance remains unanswered. So, what is the real reason this case is frozen? A deliberate cover-up by authorities protecting their own, or a tragic series of unforgivable mistakes? Let us know your theory in the comments below.